Hello everybody and welcome to the Caffeinated Classroom. If you don't already know me, my name is Marie and I'm a high school English teacher in San Diego, California. And this is a brand new podcast. Some of you are watching this very first episode being recorded and you're watching it through YouTube, and some of you are just listening through your headphones. And I say to all of you, welcome. And if you've been around the Caffeinated Classroom for a while, welcome back, friends. Like I said, I'm a high school English teacher in San Diego, California. I've been a teacher. I'm right now in my 14th year of teaching, if you don't already know me. And I love teaching. I love teaching high schoolers. I love teaching literature and just stories and reading and writing skills and critical, like I love it all. I love working with kids, and I have found a new love for working with adults, which anybody that knows me really well is like, really? I love working with teachers. I love helping teachers find new ways to think about things and find new ways to implement strategies with their students to help their students make breakthroughs. And I feel like every time I help a teacher, it helps that many more students, if that makes sense. So this podcast, the Caffeinated Classroom podcast, has been born as a way to try and help more teachers through my YouTube channel, through the other podcast that I co-host with my good friend Amanda. We have a Brave New Teaching podcast, through Instagram, and just through these different social media channels that I have. I get a lot of questions. As a mom of two young kids, it is pretty hard for me to answer all of the questions. And so what I've decided is that I want to find some ways that I can really help the most people possible by answering as many questions as I can in some broader strokes, if that makes sense. So this podcast is going to be the Caffeinated Classroom Teacher Q&A. And I will take a question a week that I either hear a lot of or that I think is extremely poignant, and I'll give a little answer to it. So today, given that this is the first episode of the Caffeinated Classroom Teacher Q&A, we're gonna take the most common question that I get. Well, I'm actually gonna give you the two most common questions that I get. The first most common question that I get as a tenured, veteran, seasoned, okay, all the same meaning of different words, teacher, is about how do I do my eyeliner? And I get it. And because sometimes when I see something, I'm like, ooh, how do you do that, right? And it has nothing to do with their like professional capacity. But I get questions all the time about how I do my eyeliner. And my best answer is I've been wearing my makeup the exact same way for 20 years. And so I just got really good at it. The second most common question that I get, which is I think what's going to actually help teachers, is what is my advice for new teachers? And that question, I wanted to start this podcast with that question because it is so stinking hard to answer. It's such a broad question. And so I'm gonna break it down a little bit. I basically have two really good pieces of wisdom for new teachers that I could share, and that I will continue to share through the Caffeinated Classroom and through Brave New Teaching and every channel that I have. But the first piece of wisdom that I would have for a new teacher or an aspiring teacher, it comes from lessons that I have learned, both the hard way and just through watching other people. Let's be honest with ourselves. I learned most lessons the hard way. I'm not that good at stopping. I am that person that thinks I know the best way to do things the first time. And when I don't achieve what I want to achieve the first time, I get really put out, shall we say. But my first piece of wisdom or advice is to ask for help, but don't just ask for help. When you ask for help, listen to the help. Whether that means asking for help from your teacher next door, whether that means asking for help from somebody like me, listen when you get that advice. Sometimes the advice is not going to apply to you 100%. Sometimes it's going to apply to you 50% or 10%, but take that 10% and see where you can really listen and digest it and bring it home with you to your classroom, to wherever it is that you can apply that advice. So an example, when I was a brand new teacher, I went to the teacher across the hall, who happens to be one of my good friends now. And I have always admired this teacher and what she does with her students, and her attention to detail is just amazing. I was teaching Les Mis as a 22-year-old, bright-eyed, brand new teacher. I had read Les Mis, but I was a French major in college, so I read Les Mis in French. So like I had to reread Les Mis as fast as possible because I didn't know what I was teaching until like I think 2 days before school started, I actually knew the courses I was teaching. And then it was a matter of getting from my colleagues what like texts needed to go into that. And everybody was really stressed out. It was like a time of great change. And so getting a hold of my colleagues was really difficult. So this is probably like a month or two into school. I went across the hall to this teacher who intimidated the poo out of me just because I knew she was amazing. She's a perfectly nice person. I just was intimidated. And I asked, can you please help me? I don't even know where to start teaching seniors Les Mis. And she was gracious and she said, you know what? I'm so busy. Right now I'm right in the middle of grading X, Y, and Z. I think she was in the middle of like grading papers. And she said, but if you look over there, she pointed to like the corner of her room. She said, go into the second drawer down in that file cabinet and just, you can look through all of the stuff. She's like, please don't take it all out because it's really well organized. I can go through it with you. I just can't go through it with you right now. And it looks like you're ready to plan. So, you know, baby teacher Marie, go take a look through all of that stuff. And I was like, oh, great, thank you. I looked through all this stuff and it didn't make sense to me. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know, like I could see assessments, I could see, you know, like activities, I could see intro stuff, but it just didn't like click in my head. And so rather than sitting down and taking the time to just really listen, where she said, I can help you later, I just can't help you right now, I went, thank you. And I didn't want to be a bother, and I like didn't want to be obnoxious, and I wanted her to like me. And I left the room after ruffling through the files for a few minutes, and then went and reinvented the whole entire, not even the whole wheel, I reinvented all 4 wheels and the wagon, and I like cloned the horse to pull the wagon. Like I worked way harder and I did way more on like a planning and creation side, and then wasn't able to implement and really grade and do what, like I did all the things and focused on all the things that we always say not to do. And it was simply because I didn't have the patience, and I didn't have just the, I didn't sit down and listen. I didn't listen. So that's my first piece. Ask for help. And then when you ask for help, listen. And keep going back. Like we our older teachers, veteran and seasoned teachers, we're here because we got help, or we're here because we didn't get help and we didn't listen. And therefore we have lessons that we can share. Ask us. Keep asking us. And when we can't help you in the moment, we will tell you. I can't help you right this second, but look here, and then I can help you tomorrow, or whatever it is. The second piece of wisdom or advice lesson that I can share is that transparency is strength. And the reason I say this is that as a newer teacher, we feel a lot of pressure, and some of that pressure is from the outside and some of that pressure is from ourselves to be perfect and do things correctly. Do you see a trend here? To do things correctly the first time, right? And it's not that we can't do things right the first time, it's that there are so many right ways to do so many things, and that we can always do better. We can always sharpen our teaching craft, and we can always improve no matter how long or how experience, you know, how long you've been teaching, how many different grade levels and different courses you've taught. We can always improve ourselves, and knowing what we are doing, what we want to be doing, and what we want to be doing better, and being able to voice that transparently is a sign of strength. I lived for a long time thinking that if I was too open, my imposter syndrome really took over. If I was too open, then students and their parents and my fellow colleagues, and my fellow teachers and administrators, they would all know that I'm a fraud, and that I don't know what I'm doing, and that I haven't read every single classic, and that I don't have like every Greek and Latin root memorized, because by the way, I still don't, because who cares? You can look it up, there's the internet. But I thought that if I let them all know, if I let the cracks show, then I would be found out. And like, I don't know what I thought would happen after I got found out, but like I would be found out. And it took a little bit of time, and it took me being vulnerable and being transparent in my teaching practice and my craft to really learn the lesson that that was truly like me exhibiting strength. I wasn't showing my weaknesses. Showing what I can do and what I can't do yet, ooh, growth mindset, was showing my strength, and it was building my strength more and more. So that is going to be the little piece that I leave you with. Transparency is not weakness, it is strength, and it is building upon the things that we know to find out the things we don't yet know. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me for this first episode of the podcast. I look forward to hearing your questions. Head to thecaffeinatedclassroom.com and you will see a little button there to contribute a question to the podcast, or go ahead and send me a direct message on Instagram. However it is that we connect, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a question in the comments down below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys same bat time, same bat channel next week. Bye.